Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I bring you the next chapter in the story of Hoai Ca and Hùng, and this time, something special is about to happen. It is the very first time Hùng takes Hoai Ca to his workplace's year-end party. A gathering that seems simple on the surface, yet holds great meaning for her, and is also the place where something unexpected happens, forcing both of them to face emotions that are not easy to put into words. Let's follow today's video to see how everything unfolds. That evening, Hùng department was hosting their annual year-end celebration. It was one of the most important events of the year, not only a moment for colleagues to reunite after months of hard work, but also the occasion for everyone to bring their wives or girlfriends along as a way to introduce them, to show a little pride in their own family. While Hùng was getting ready outside, Hoai Ca stood before the large mirror in their room, staring at her reflection until time seemed to slow down. The dress she wore was neither expensive nor trendy, but it was the nicest one she had, the one she had chosen after spending the whole afternoon debating whether it would be appropriate. The light in the room cast a soft glow on her skin, making the nervousness in her chest even more obvious. She turned slightly, then lowered her head to smooth the hem of her dress, her lips pressed together as if she were questioning herself. She whispered, so softly that it felt like her words were meant only for the mirror. "Hùng, do I look strange like this? I'm afraid I won't fit in where you work." That question was not just about the dress. It came from the insecurities she had carried for years, from all the days she worked job after job, from the moments people stared at her in the market because of how she spoke, how clumsy she was. Hoai Ca had never belonged to elegant spaces, and she had certainly never stepped inside a formal environment like the police department where Hùng worked. In her mind, it was a completely different world, filled with confident, capable, well-spoken people. And she always feared she would be the one who seemed out of place. Hùng heard her and walked closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. He gently fixed a strand of hair falling across her forehead, each movement carrying the intention of calming her trembling heart. His eyes met hers through the mirror, warm, steady, and full of tenderness. "You are my wife," he said slowly, as if letting each word sink into her. "You'll fit anywhere." It was not a compliment, nor a flowery promise, but the certainty in his voice made her chest tighten as warmth spread quietly inside her. She looked at Hùng in the mirror and saw herself reflected in his eyes. Not a woman who grew up lacking education, not a woman who had endured hardship after hardship, but the woman he was proud to walk into the party with tonight. A small breath escaped Hoai Ca's lips, as though a part of her anxiety had just loosened. She nodded lightly, though her heart still beat fast. Hùng smiled and took her hand, small, slightly cold from nervousness, and squeezed it gently, as if sealing his reassurance. "Come with me, wife." Hoai Ca lowered her head with a shy smile. She did not say another word, but the softness in her eyes showed she had gathered enough courage to step into a new place, even if her heart still held a quiet flutter of uncertainty. Outside, the sound of the car engine hummed softly. The cool air of the late-year evening brushed past them, but inside Hoai Ca, the warmth of Hùng words remained, guiding her as she stepped out the door with him. Little did she know that at the party she believed would be joyful, something unpleasant was already waiting for them. The hall that evening glowed with bright, shimmering decorations draped across the ceiling, mixed with the warm golden light from the large chandeliers. The air of the year-end celebration carried its usual liveliness, festive music playing throughout the room, laughter rising from small clusters of people, and the smell of food drifting from the buffet tables. Everyone seemed relaxed, relieved after a long year of hard work. But the moment Hùng walked in hand with Hoai Ca, something in the atmosphere around them shifted. A few heads turned immediately, Some only glanced for a second before returning to their conversations, while others stared longer, their eyes more intent, more scrutinizing. One of Hung's close colleagues spotted him first and called out loudly, cheerful and teasing. "Oh." The deputy chief finally brought his wife along. Rare sight. Hung smiled back, calm and unbothered. But behind that cheerful greeting, softer whispers began to float through the air, quiet enough to seem private, but loud enough for Hoai Ca to hear every word. Is she really Hung's wife? She looks so plain. I heard she can't even read. The words were thin as threads, yet heavy as stones when they landed inside her. Hoai Ca heard each syllable clearly, as if someone had knocked the breath out of her. Her steps faltered for half a second, but she quickly pushed the feeling down, afraid Hung might notice. She tightened her grip on his hand, the only sign of the trembling happening inside her chest. She did not dare lift her head. The warm lights now felt glaring, stinging her eyes, and the music suddenly sounded distant, like something she could no longer reach. Just as she was trying to steady herself enough to continue walking, a figure approached from the right. A young female officer, someone well known in the department, and someone many knew had once admired Hung, walked toward them with slow, deliberate steps. She did not hurry, yet her walk made it clear she had seen something she did not like the moment the two entered. She stopped in front of them, a thin smile on her lips, though her eyes were cold, sharp enough to cut. "Officer Hung," she said, drawing out his name with emphasis. "I thought you would be coming alone tonight. I didn't expect you'd bring your wife." The word wife stretched unnaturally, coated with mockery, as if she were commenting on something amusing rather than greeting them. Her eyes swept over Hoai Ca from the simple hairstyle to the modest dress, to the worn flat shoes. Each pause in her gaze felt like a silent, merciless judgment. Hoai Ca's face flushed. It felt as though someone had ripped away the thin veil she was hiding behind, leaving her exposed in front of everyone. Under the bright lights, the very flaws she feared others would see, her simplicity, her lack of confidence, seemed magnified tenfold. Hung's expression remained unchanged. His voice was calm, steady. "This is Hoai Ca, my wife." The words were gentle, yet unmistakably firm. Firm enough that a few people nearby paused mid-motion. But the young officer only curled her lips again, the smile never reaching her eyes. She tilted her head slightly, her voice dripping with sarcasm that everyone around them could hear clearly. "You used to date women who were smart, beautiful, educated." Her eyes locked onto Hoai Ca one more time. "Your taste has gotten cute lately." The air froze. The music continued somewhere in the background, but the space around Hung and Hoai Ca fell into a heavy, fragile silence. Hoai Ca turned pale. Her lips trembled. She stared down at the polished tile floor, where the lights reflected like broken pieces of gold, reflecting her embarrassment, her shame, and the hurt swelling inside her. Her hand shook so hard that she had to grip her small purse tightly just to keep it from slipping right out of her fingers. There was only one thought echoing in her mind. "I shouldn't have come. I don't belong here. I'm making Hung look bad." No one touched her, yet she felt pushed into the darkest corner of the room. Beside her, Hung looked at her, and in his eyes, a very different emotion began to rise. Hung leaned slightly forward, then stepped ahead just enough to stand between Hoai Ca and the woman, a quiet but unmistakable shield. The movement was not aggressive, yet it drew a clear line no one was allowed to cross. "You are insulting my wife." Hung's voice dropped lower, colder, sharper than usual. The female officer blinked, lifting her brows in a mix of surprise and irritation. She did not step back. Instead, She crossed her arms confidently, as though she believed she had done nothing wrong. "I'm only telling the truth," she said, keeping her thin smile. "You deserve someone better." Each word fell softly, yet poisoned the air like a needle dipped in venom. The atmosphere tightened instantly. The lights still shimmered overhead. The music still drifted through the hall, yet the space around them felt as though it had shrunk to a single, suffocating point. Hung stared straight into her eyes. His expression was not angry, not explosive, but it carried a weight that made anyone standing in front of him instinctively halt. His voice was calm, but each syllable landed with the precision of a steel blade. "No one is better for me than Hoai Ca, and I won't allow anyone, not even a colleague, to belittle her." For a moment, the entire room seemed to fall silent. The laughter and conversations that had filled the hall moments earlier faded to the edges, leaving a heavy stillness surrounding the three of them. Several people nearby instinctively turned away, pretending not to notice, though their ears were tuned sharply to every word. Some looked unsure, torn between stepping in or pretending nothing was happening. Others glanced at Hung with quiet admiration. Not many men would defend their wives so openly, especially in a professional setting. The young officer stiffened. Her earlier confidence faltered under Hung's sharp words. The smile slipped off her face, replaced by a mix of hurt and indignation. Her eyes darkened, as though she could not accept that she, someone praised and noticed by many, was being compared to someone as modest as Hoai Ca and losing. She spun around abruptly and walked away. Her heels tapped sharply against the floor, each step filled with annoyance. Even as her figure disappeared into the crowd, the frustration in her posture made it clear this was not the end of the story for her. Only after she left did the tension around them slowly ease. The room's chatter returned, though more subdued than before. A few people glanced at Hoai Ca with complicated expressions, some sympathetic, some surprised, and some quietly reconsidering her after witnessing Hung's fierce response. Hoai Ca remained standing, slightly bowed, both hands gripping her small purse as though it were the only thing keeping her steady. Everything had happened too quickly, too intensely, for her to process how she truly felt. Her heart pounded hard, her ears burned with embarrassment, yet tangled within that was another feeling, one that tightened her throat. When she finally looked up a little, her eyes met Hung's. His gaze was nothing like the sharp one he had shown moments earlier. It softened immediately, as if the warrior who had just defended her vanished the moment he turned toward her, replaced by the gentle husband worried about her feelings. That look made her nose sting. Not because she was insulted, not because she was embarrassed, but because for the first time in her life, someone stood in front of everyone to protect her. Someone refused to let a single word hurt her, not even one. Hoai Ca's breath caught in her chest. She lowered her head, biting her lip, fighting the tears threatening to spill in the middle of the crowded hall. Just one sentence from Hung, just one moment of him stepping forward, was enough to make her heart tighten and tremble with emotion. Hung tightened his grip on Hoai Ca's hand, as if trying to pull her away from the crowd that had grown far too suffocating. "Let's go home." His voice wasn't loud, but it was firm, leaving no room for anyone to interrupt. Hoai Ca flinched slightly. She glanced around the hall. The lights were still dazzling, people were still laughing, food was still being served. This was the department's most important year-end party, the one where Hung was expected to appear as one of the main organizers. She whispered, barely audible, "But your department's event." Each word shrank into the air like it wished to disappear. Hung squeezed her hand again, this time more firmly, as though anchoring her. "It's not more important than you." A simple sentence, yet it struck something deep inside her. Warm, tender, overwhelming. Hoai Ca looked up at him, her eyes still slightly red, but she said nothing more. Hùng placed a hand on her back to guide her, and together they walked out of the hall under the stunned gazes of several people. Some colleagues caught only a glimpse of their retreating figures. Hùng, tall and steady, and Hoai Ca, small and close behind him. No one said anything, but many silently understood. Their deputy chief had just done something not every man would have the courage to do: leave an entire formal event behind, just to protect his wife's feelings. As the hall doors closed behind them, the music faded into the distance, replaced by a quiet stillness. They walked slowly toward the car, their hands never letting go. Streetlights cast long ribbons of light across the pavement, stretching their shadows side by side, intertwined. The car pulled up near the familiar riverbank, the place where Hùng and Hoai Ca once shared roasted corn when they first fell in love, where they talked about the past, the future, and the worries they told no one else. Tonight, the river looked the same, the water shimmering with reflections from the bridge's golden lights, the cold wind brushing past, crisp but gentle enough to calm a restless heart. Hùng turned off the engine. The quiet was so complete, they could hear the soft ripple of water hitting the shore. He stepped out, walked around the car, and opened the door for her. She climbed out, shivering slightly from the night wind, though it was nothing compared to the trembling caused by everything that had happened inside the hall. He didn't let her stay cold for long. Hùng took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders, the motion so gentle it felt as though he feared startling her. Hoai Ca, he called softly, as though saying the name of something precious. Don't let their words hurt you. Her lips pressed together. Her eyes fell to the damp ground, watching her fingers twist together. Her breaths came thin and unsteady, like she wanted to speak but didn't dare. I know I'm not good enough for you. Her voice was small, almost lost in the wind. I'm not pretty. I'm not educated. I'm just afraid you'll be ashamed of me. Hùng froze for a moment, not because he was surprised, but because he understood. Her words didn't just come from tonight. They came from years of insecurity, from pain she carried long before they ever met. He placed both hands on her shoulders and gently turned her to face him. It was a firm motion, but not harsh, as if he were trying to pull her out of the shell of self-doubt gripping her heart. I don't need you to be beautiful. Hung's voice was steady, each word pressing softly against her wounds. I don't need you to be educated. His tone dropped lower, heavy but warm. I just need you. The night breeze brushed past them, lifting strands of her hair. Hoai Ca looked up, eyes wide with surprise and confusion. Hung's gaze met hers, so sincere it felt capable of breaking down every wall she had built. You've suffered for so many years, he continued, voice filled with both sorrow and resolve. But now you have me, and I want you to be protected. I won't let anyone hurt you again. If these words had been spoken in public, Hoai Ca would have been too embarrassed to breathe. But here, with only the river, the lights, the wind, and the man placing his whole heart before her, she could only stand there and feel. Tears fell. Not loud, not dramatic, just soft drops sliding down her cheeks. But unlike the tears in the hall, these weren't from humiliation. They were tears of being understood, of being cherished, of being treated as someone who mattered. She stood there, small in Hung's large coat, yet her heart had never felt warmer than it did in that moment. Hùng held Hoai Ca's hand, gently, yet with a firmness that made her feel anchored, and led her along the grassy path by the river. It wasn't paved like the main walkway, but it was the place they always came to whenever they wanted to escape the noise of life. Tonight, The breeze drifting off the water carried a coolness, the scent of damp grass, and memories of the times they sat here when they first fell in love. Golden lights from the distant bridge stretched into shimmering lines across the river. The slow-moving water reflected them softly, as though trying to soothe every worry lingering in Hoai Ca's heart. Hung guided her to a familiar patch of grass, the same place where they had once spread out his only jacket just to sit and talk, back when the weather had been even colder than tonight. Without a word, he sat down first, then gently tugged her hand so she could lie beside him. Two silhouettes rested side by side on the cool ground, blending into the quiet vastness of the night sky. Above them, scattered stars flickered in clusters, glowing softly with each breath the two shared. Hoai Ca looked up at the sky, then turned her gaze to Hung, the man with broad shoulders, a steadfast face, and eyes that were always tender when they looked at her. A wave of safety washed through her body, loosening the tension she had held inside. After a few long seconds of silence, her voice came out in a trembling whisper, as if she had gathered all the courage she had just to say it. Hung, I'm just afraid. I'll embarrass you. It wasn't a complaint, nor a plea for comfort. It was the bare truth of someone who had lived too long with insecurity, someone who struggled to believe she deserved to stand beside happiness. Hung turned toward her, pulling her closer, his chest pressed lightly against hers, their breaths mixing in the cold night air. He rested his forehead against hers, a touch so gentle yet so intimate, as though he were offering her the warmth and steadiness of his own heart. Embarrassed, he said slowly, each word etched with meaning, is what I'd feel if I couldn't protect you. He reached up and brushed his thumb against her cheek, wiping away the tear that lingered there. But you, his voice softened, becoming so warm that even the night air felt gentler. You are my pride. The words were delicate enough not to frighten her, yet powerful enough to shatter the wall of self-doubt she had carried for years. Hearing them made her heart tighten, not from hurt this time, but from overwhelming emotion. A small laugh escaped her, shaky, breathless, filled with all the warmth she had held back throughout the evening. Hoai Ca laughed through her tears, the sound blending softly with the breeze, fragile yet beautiful. She leaned into Hung's shoulder. His shoulder was broad, warm, and felt like the safest place she had ever known. In that moment, she realized that whatever storms existed outside, they no longer mattered. As long as she had this man, the one who shielded her behind him, the one who held her in his heart, every pain in life suddenly felt small. The night wind brushed past, lifting her hair. The river shimmered under the lights, as if witnessing this quiet, tender moment. Neither of them spoke again. They didn't need to. The silence between them wasn't cold. It was connection in its purest form, something words could never fully express. The night stretched on, the sky opened wide, and for the first time in her life, Hoai Ca's heart felt light. And their story is far from over. Stay tuned for the next episode to follow the warm, heartfelt journey of Hoai Ca and Hung, and support her as she continues to face the challenges ahead.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, lại là mình đây. Hôm nay thì mình lại bị deadline gì nha mọi người. Bây giờ là 7 giờ 10 phút mà mình còn chưa làm được video đây. Nó lâu mà nó lâu gì đâu luôn á. Là tại vì mình làm mấy cái hình ảnh mà nó làm không có được ưng ý gì hết, xong mình cứ làm đi làm lại nên là tốn thời gian. Cảm ơn mọi người đã theo dõi video của mình nhé. Cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều. Không biết video này có kịp lên lúc 7 rưỡi không đây. Cảm ơn mọi người, chào mọi người, hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong video sau nhé. Bye bye mọi người. Sao cái phụ đề cái đó nào.